Welcome everyone to the I don't know what number this is. We're at 317 of these things. Who would have
Woohoo!
guessed? It's somehow already the end of the month. We're staring at the 29th. Oh my gosh.
What?
And it's not even April Fool's yet. That's apparently
Good.
Friday.
It's also my dad's birthday, so I'm waiting for my paycheck to come in tomorrow so I can get him something.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
He is not a joke, although he is a funny person.
Carry
As you can hear, we do have a small horde of people joining us today. There's an Bean.
Hello.
We got a C Bean C in the background, probably fluffing things. We got a Pixie Knot.
Arnar.
We got a Burr.
Bro.
And a Zybean.
Hi. We're all mermaids today, though. That's what it's gonna be.
Yep.
I'm just updating my name.
I always wanted to be a magical princess.
Me too.
Well, today you are, because you
Definitely
are
not today.
special, lovely princess leader living dead. You're here too.
Hi. As always, if you have any art you'd like to submit, please fire it towards our faces. If you have any money you'd like to send us, PayPal isn't open, so figure out a way. I believe throwing toonies at us from a long distance works, or for every other country, dollarinos. I'm not quite sure how your
Dollar dues.
Yeah.
Yep. Dollary dues.
And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Let's do this. So first picture we have submitted, top left-hand corner. This is by Gecko Mike, Stormtrooper helmet. No, Shock Trooper helmet, sorry. This helmet is and mask is something I drew up for a story I'd like to eventually write. It's designed to be worn by griffins, but has been adopted to fit hippogriffs as well. It is meant to be as intimidating as it is protective, and the shock troops of both regular and mercenary armies use it to great effect when terrorizing their enemies in close quarter battles. Hello, Shadow King, by the way. Cool. So let's go over this funky little design here. It's supposed to be among two bird creatures. That makes sense.
I'm looking at this design, and I'm thinking about this design, and I almost want to say I would cut off the whole bottom beak here, because it'd be like they'd have to slot their beak into this rubber, and the whole thing about having a beak is like it's powerful, it's sharp, it's the thing that'll do damage, not the rubber protection. So if you could have like a hood for the beak that's like a very intimidating and sharp design, but you have like them full access to use their actual beak.
It could be just like a sort of metal spike hanging over the beak. Also, if there is a bottom to it, it's literally a muzzle. They won't be able to talk. So definitely have it as just like what I was doing here, sort of like an outer thing, and then you have like the actual beak like coming out underneath it. That was a sort of idea, but yeah.
I do also like the idea. You said it was supposed to be a spike. If you were to follow that metal down and slightly past the end of the beak, you got to use the metal as the piercing end to save the face.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of grotesque, but it's cool. It's war.
Super knife.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be shocking and intimidating. Pulling from a bunch of different sources could be really fun on this. Like, you could do the standard shock troopers from World War II, where they were just mostly clad in black and it was like flat in that. But then you could also pull from some great sources of sci-fi, or even like rolling back to like medieval era if you want to get really striking and intimidating. Birds are a thing of plumage. Plumage is one of the things they use to really intimidate things because it makes them bigger, makes them larger. Is that a catapult on it? Anyway, damn it.
That's a knife.
I think one of the suggestions I would have for you is put some plumage on the helmet.
Yeah. Yeah, going more vibrant rather than dark and edgy would probably actually feel pretty interesting. There's all sorts of different interpretations you can go for, and just having like evil, dark-looking gas mask guide like is maybe not the best idea for a species that has a lot of like vibrancy to its design.
It's a fun design idea you can mess with.
They can have like kind of an Aztec kind of feel maybe or something like that. There's all sorts of different things you could go for.
Yeah, so I'll just take these little things as an example, these little clip things. So what you can do with those is you can have them try to like almost wrap around the back of the sort of helmety kind of thing. And how you can do that is kind of do something like this. And then you have like these little like rivets or whatever to attach it. So you have boom boom, one there, and then you can have like one over here, and maybe even have a little bulge out, and that sort of shows the viewer that this little connection is like wrapping around the back of sort of the strap and all that kind of sort of stuff. You can see the
if you did
different
want to
designs.
stick to kind of the military look, really focus in on things that have a lot of detail, things like these tech pieces. That can bring a lot of interest to the design you have there without it getting too overcrowded. Also, make sure you have layers like this. These two things could be on top of this, I don't know, hoodie thing beneath it, giving it more dimension to your piece. So that's something you can play around with as well if you want to look more like military. Try to look up real life references, get that detail in there.
Heck yeah. Yeah, when you're going for this sort of technology kind of stuff, then like focusing on the basic shapes and all that sort of stuff can be really useful.
Really cool, though. Fun idea, just experimenting with them. Doing a lot of thumbnails to build up a design of this would also really help in the initial stage of what elements do I want to peel off, and sort of creating a collage of different historical helmets or sci-fi helmets or helmets that you want to, impart a bit of the feeling, design, and mythology behind. It will also help with building up this.
A design is not going to be one drawing. It's going to be a lot of experimentation, basically. I totally agree with what LD is saying. It's best to thumbnail things out, experiment with ideas, maybe try doing different versions with different things. It's like, oh, what if I add this part? Or maybe I didn't like that, and I'll try without it on this one. Or maybe I'll try doing it a different way here, and you just get to experiment, and it's cool. Definitely do as many as possible rather than just having one complete picture that you shaded and everything. Which I love the sort of toning and shading that you've done. It's just when you're doing the design phase, it's less important to have it looking polished than it is just to sort of show it off.
And it might feel silly or cartoony when you're doing just the pre-sketches, and it might not feel that intimidation, because I know sometimes adding in those textures, that shading, especially for like when you want intimidating scary stuff, usually the more like detail in the little bits and parts the better. But for just like designing, getting the first passes, don't worry about it feeling like you get the big picture going before we get into the little details, and you'll be able to get more tries, more chances at figuring out what you want instead of rendering each one to get that super intimidating feel.
Yep.
All right, shall we roll on to our next picture?
Heck yeah.
Or I guess in this case, march on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, we got this adorable little filly here. It is by Finality MLP, Attempted Pony Sketch. I would say you succeeded in pony sketch.
Hell yeah.
Sure is a horse. No questions?
No questions.
Let me get a lighter color, actually.
Do you think this raised leg is supposed to be on the left side or right side?
I think it's supposed to be behind.
That's meant to be behind, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, what we're having is the pony fall over sideways. And the reason behind that is you've raised the same leg on the same side, and unfortunately, they got really big heads, so they don't balance well. What you'll want to do is raise only one side at a time. You can, stagger it so the front left is raised and the back right is raised, and then they're doing the little jolly dance that they love to do, and that's so adorable. But doing both at the same time, unless if they're like in movement, sort of like rolling sideways or doing something that gives the weight to that side, it makes it look as though they're about to fall over. Very easy mistake to make, especially when you get caught up in, yes, I want to make it a more dynamic pose. And that's what this is. This is a dynamic pose, and you've done a great job with it. But if we just switch the legs on one half of it, we'll get them balanced out.
Basically, think about diagonals. So, for example, this is our pony from the top, right here. You've got this leg, this leg, this leg, and this leg. Either those two can be raised, or those two can be raised. But, one of those two needs to be like on the ground, or else they're going to fall over, basically. That's how I always think when I'm doing poses like this, is diagonals. I also like to, for example, with this leg up here, sort of have a little bit of like a shoulder. So I have this kind of, instead of just having it like do this, I have it like kind of pull out a little bit. Boom, and then a little bit on this side as well. But this is super fun. I like this little sketch drawing.
With the muzzle, so we got this adorable. Let's choose a slightly lighter color here. We got this adorable face ball going on, which is pretty standard head ball. And the only thing I would suggest for changing here, with the muzzle shape, so fillies generally, or fillies and young horses, whatever's going on, tends to have small muzzles. They tend to sit down around the last third of that face. They are small, cute, and adorable, just like you've done, but the bottom part of that jaw, you've just overextended it a bit. So it caused them to have what looks like a bit of I think it would be an overbite. The jaw wouldn't line up again with the face. So if we just pull the jaw back in, we'll keep that cute, adorable face, but we'll also save a bit of the mouth. And if we want to add a bit of a bonus, you can do squishy cheeks. So we take the cheek, we squish it up on the eyeball. Because of course they're probably full of like candy and gumdrops and sugar and spice.
Mm.
All right. Anyone else have anything wonderful to say on this? See you later, CPC.
See you.
Bye.
Not personally, no.
See someone still
No, I'm
making
just
strokes.
messing about.
All right then.
Yeah, I'm just messing about the sort of shape of everything back here.
Right.
Oh,
Well, we have a submission from
Fun.
our chat, so let me just save this one.
Brilliant.
They have drawn a deer.
Yeah, it looks.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Dear.
Come on, refresh page. Sorry, it takes a few moments to resize it so it can fit on my canvas. I only got so much space. There might be some room in the stable here.
Put it up here.
There we go.
There you go.
Brilliant.
Perfect fit.
All right.
Just cute.
So, Shadow King? Yeah, you can just throw stuff at us until we run out of canvas space. Then we decide to tap it out because that's too much work for free.
Yep.
Black bar on their face. I can't quite figure that out.
I think glasses.
Oh, maybe.
So, Shadow King, do you have any questions in particular on this one?
Where am I in the chat? Is it the Picato chat?
Yeah.
They have here, I'll quick ask.
Oh no, what happened to my... Oh no, my drawing vanished. How did my drawing vanish? Fine, I'll draw it again. Aggie, why are you being stupid?
Shooby-doo, shoot, shooby-doo.
Definitely, well, them fighting herds, yeah, that was the game, right?
Yeah.
Definitely that style of deer. Big floofy mane, or neck, mane thing.
Yeah. Some decent glasses, and then my drawing disappeared, and I had to draw them again. That was terrible. Get the point.
Woohoo! Sound on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or
Yay.
or do they just see the flip?
I'm not.
Can you hear us?
Blink twice. Floof.
Yeah.
Floof is important. It's part of your daily diet.
So what I would recommend doing, if this is like a hard design or something along those lines, I just flip this bottom face so that the face is like facing that way, because in card designs and all that kind of sort of stuff, you want it to be like reversible. So if you take the card and then you just like flip it 180 degrees, you'll see the same thing.
Exactly.
You can see some people doing some lovely redraws and a little bit of a redraw of the glasses as well.
Yeah. Kind of
I do see somebody doing it one way. The way I usually do it is kind of the same way you're doing it here. Just move it to be a little bit more on top of the nose, because here, let me turn my opacity up. Where that bridge of the glasses is going to sit is about halfway through the glasses, typically for like rounded glasses. So that part there is going to be on where it would rest on the nose. So just lift it up a little bit.
Yeah. To answer your question, they say the way they drew it will mess up the colors when they flip it. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to flip it horizontally, but if that's the case, flip the line out and just do the colors again, even if it means a little bit of extra work. Sometimes that's necessary.
Also, there's an option where you can once you're done, you make a copy of all your layers and merge them so that you have everything on one layer, and then you can flip it any which way and it'll stay the same. And you'll still have your original layers there if you need to go back and edit. So it's like you can finish the picture, and then when you're formatting the card, you just work with the solid image of the headshot.
Then you have this fun little element on top as a separate layer. I do like this little sort of element. Looks good.
It feels like a nest. What were you going for there as the separator, Shadow King?
It is meant to be a nest, I think they say.
Fabric.
Based off
Let's
of
see.
fabric. Interesting. Cool. Fabric is always fun to mess with.
Oh, so it's like a very fuzzy, fluffy. Oh, it's made from goat hair. A very curly goat hair. That's cute.
Heck yeah.
That's a fun picture. All right, you got any last questions for us?
Yeah, even with references, sometimes things can be difficult to get right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have to kind of work in like an MLP style, you have to simplify a lot of the details going on. And honestly, I'd say for what you have here, I would simplify it even more instead of having all the lines going through the center of it because it kind of confuses the intent. If you wanted to just be like fluffy fabric, you could just have the base shape and have. Let me open the program. I was off looking at references. Let's say. Where's a good place to draw? Okay. So I want the
Bring on the
fabric to be
legs.
in a general flowy shape like this, and maybe we can just like fluff some of the corners and the edges, maybe where the arches are the most, visible. And that can be the base of what we got going on. Maybe really fluff up the curve there, but then we can go in and have some more fluffs, but not fluff everything, just kind of have everything going through it. And that way we can get just simplified fluff.
That's cool. It all like flows along that kind of like center line of the everything.
You can even have little parts peeking to add some depth. But just keeping it nice and simple, especially when we have a nice simple style that's like MLP. Round, simple, smooth, cute.
Heck yeah. You can see someone else trying their hand at sort of the fabric side down here.
Wear glasses?
Man.
All right. Now I have the Nowhere King's theme stuck in my head after reading Shadow King.
Oh no. Okay. Even if it's not an MLP style, to me this reads as a very simplified cartoon style. I just said MLP because, well,
We're
that's
the
why
MLP
we're all
Drawing
here.
School. We do accept non-MLP art, though.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
Knowledge is
you need
slightly
to,
more limited.
yeah. You need to be nice, for us to accept non-MLP art.
Yeah.
No, just joking. You can just chuck us at it. You know what I mean? I think it's time for us to move on to the next picture. Thank you for tracking that at us.
Really great drawing. I hope you keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Top center gives us hissy horses. And we got, this is by Brilliant Carpenter 6. I used to have a huge pony phase when I was younger. Decided I want to try draw ponies again after years. On the right is my new OC Penny Button. Listen,
Cool.
Ponies is like the Hotel California. You might thought you left, but you can't ever leave.
Yeah. I like
like sparkly gel pens for the magic. It's
Yeah,
good,
that's so
And
cute.
I love
the
the
rings,
earrings.
yeah.
The rings.
Mm-hmm.
the little sparkly details on that as well. Yeah.
You have pony jewelry. It's a cute accent.
Yeah.
I like horn rings. I wish that in the show we saw any like married characters have it with horn rings because we see that in as an engagement thing and then like not after that. It would have
I
been
wonder
cute.
if it's just like large and uncomfortable, because that much gold would
Maybe.
be weighty.
I think given the placement on the head at like the sort of center point of your center of gravity, I think it'd be okay. If it was on the end of the horn, it would definitely be uncomfortable.
Did Shining Armor and Cadence ever exchange rings? Because they're the
Yeah, they
only
had them
one
on the horns,
unicorns.
but then not after that point.
Hmm.
Oh, they definitely eloped well before that marriage. I was just like, this is for show, yo.
The ones we saw in the ceremony were just like simulacrums, and they were already gone.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway, this is cute. This is a cute art.
Mhm.
I love the
Something
style
that
he's gone for.
Something that is pointing out to me is your horn angle. There are two different angles going on each pony. This one leaning down forward a bit more. Yeah, someone in blue there is drawing the angle. And
Have the eye.
unfortunately, unicorns are a
Yeah.
bit tricky. You really have to think about the horn placement when you're doing these cute, smoochy, cuddly things.
Like
I
right
think it'd be a
there
bit
might
higher
work.
than that. Yeah, more. I think more where Vex is doing it. And but see,
Yeah.
look, if you do it right, you've got a perfect little nuzzle valley. I mean,
Yeah.
the bridge of the nose and the horn. It's a perfect little. You can just stroke the nose up. It's
The
cute.
perfect interlock.
Yep. Yep. Or stab them in the eye.
It's got a full-on like middle of the temple horn, nose bridge horn.
I think adding sort of the other ear, the back ear into some of these would be nice. You can see like someone drawing it like just peeking through there. And with this horse, it's interesting because you could have it like let's say that the head is like roughly kind of there. This ear's going back here. The other ear could be like, you know, a little bit below it, or maybe that ear could be there, and then that ear, the other ear could be like up a little bit. It's interesting to sort of try out different positioning because how the ears or where the ears are kind of really makes for some interesting characterization and expressions. So whenever I'm like planning out ears, what I tend to do is I tend to just like get a little pen and do something like this and see how that looks. I don't know, it's fun. Can add a lot of like interesting sort of emotions to your expressions. So feel free to mess with it.
You highlight streaks added with a gel pen to that mane could work very well in its favor. Because we already see you have the gel pens. Let's just hope you have the plethora. And if not, a white one's a great thing to have. So is a black one.
Listen, I found clear gel pens. Like, it's a clear gel pen that all it does is add sparkle. Use it on everything. It's great.
Do you
Any color, it doesn't matter.
Do you like sign your checks and wills with that? Like,
I wish, if only people could read glitter, if that was
The real question is now that you know that you can do that, will you?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how well they scan a check with that.
Good luck. Good luck.
All right, shall we move on to our next picture?
You can see just before we move on, you can see someone doing some like interesting like shape pushing with that. So like instead of having this sort of go like this, you just exaggerate sort of all of the movements a bit to like give a little bit of extra life to the picture. Especially places like the hair where there's going to be like more movement, there's going to be like more of that sort of expression showing through and all that kind of sort of stuff. But yeah, good picture.
All right. On to further horse.
Which one? Which one are we doing?
We're gonna do Sunny Sherbet.
Now I want sherbet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just nice, refreshing, citrusy sherbet, like chef kiss.
This one is by Fizzy Milk Can. Drawing of a new OC I made today. She has a sister. I might post that drawing if it does well. Thoughts? They should totally be playing together. I suggest like dancing in puddles or something. You know, good fun. Because they look like adorable horses.
Heck yeah. I'd you could pull this this line here just a little bit closer towards the eye. But that's just me.
I wish you were here to ask because I was curious if she's supposed to have very tiny wings, like if that's part of it, kind of like a Scootaloo vibe with tiny wings, or is it supposed to be more full-grown Pegasus?
Yeah.
But either way, I think whoever was drawing, moving it up closer to like the shoulder area. I'm doing air quotes that you cannot see or hear. But yeah, getting it closer to this area, which is more the shoulder. Like if we trace the arm, the shoulder.
Mm.
You absolutely do not need to do proper bird shape. You can totally do MLP shape. I just like proper bird shape. Yeah, and as Ali said, just moving it up. I would also show that the second one's hanging around there. They even do this in the show quite often. It just sort of sticks out the side. Same with the ears. There are 2 ears, generally.
You can have 1 ear. That's fine.
What?
What? Oh, sorry, I forgot our rule. Always draw the back ear, or else
Always.
we'll find you. I just changed up the sort of this close hoof. It's kind of strange to like think about the different joints and stuff like that. But whenever I'm doing like this kind of pose where it's like the hoof is kind of up, I think it tends to go in this kind of way where it's like a little bit of a sort of back here, way forward here, and then back there for the final thing. And if you really want to, you can have like the actual hoof itself kind of like wrap way around and do all that kind of sort of stuff. It can tuck in a lot.
I do absolutely love the colors you've chosen. They scream MLP to me. The light pastel without being like they're very complementary. They aren't too wild, too crazy. Sometimes they do wild and crazy, but often it's very muted tones, very eye-pleasing tones, and that's this character. If you told me this was one you found in the show, I would have absolutely believed you.
Something I did was just kind of thin up the back legs just a little. I'm totally fine with big stompy feet. I think they can be really cute on ponies. I just think just give the legs a little more definition, especially if we look at the front leg, how it gets wider where these kind of stayed at one thickness. It's just a nice flow to the character. You can even make them like a little thicker, but just some shaping up.
It with the back legs, if you look at sort of how they draw them typically and all that sort of stuff, they tend to thin out like around about this area, and then like expand out again, and that can look really fun.
Is a little hoof shape that I like doing.
Because the front left leg is up, you could have the back right leg, because that's the opposite one. You could have that doing something else as well. Like, for example, sort of forward a little bit, or even like not totally on the ground or something along those lines. Whenever you look at like hoof positioning, looking at like the opposites, so either, front left and back right, or back left and front right, you can have both of those sort of off the ground or some of that sort of stuff without them tipping over.
There we go. That's fun.
But it looks good. Good picture.
All right, let's
I'd
move
also
on to
maybe
our... Oh, go ahead.
one last thing. I'd maybe, instead of having the tail just come out like that, have it kind of glide out from the back. Just have a little more natural flow off there.
You can have a little, let's grab that color, a little, what they call a dock right there, which is just a little bit of like a extra thing that the tail can sort of come out of.
Mm-hmm. It's
Pretty
the thing that
popular.
holds the tail hair. It's all nifty.
Yep.
All right, now let's move on to our next picture. We're
Yay.
gonna do the one with worms, just slightly to its left, no doubt.
Fine. It's a cute earthworm.
This is by Anime Planter Party, made of Pony Sana. Her name is Earthworm.
I love the creativity of using like the sort of painted splotches for the sort of mud texture.
I will agree
Goodness.
with whoever's drawing this stuff. Those front hooves can be closer in to the chest. At first, when I looked at this, I was like, "Oh, she doesn't have any front hooves. What's going on?" And then I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Okay." But like
Or you
this
could
is like
move
really,
that neck back a little bit too.
yeah, actually.
Back legs are pretty good, but yeah. Just sort of moving them forward and separating them a little bit, so we definitely see she has a front left. So at first glance, it sort of looks like it's gone, like if she was an amputee. So she has a
Which is
back
all
leg,
good,
it's
so long
visible.
as you mean to do it.
Yeah, exactly. If she has a back leg, it should be visible.
I do want to say good job with the with all of the, I don't know, with the rendering and all that sort of stuff. It looks really nice.
Very good colors.
I'd kind of up here. You could sort of just refine that thing away because the ear is kind of in front of that hair. That's a small thing though.
I mean, overall, this is very MLP Pony. Like, you've done a wonderful pony.
I love it.
Your lines are clean. Your character shape and proportions are good.
Mm-hmm. I could see them owning a gardening center or working at one.
I do wonder.
Oh, sorry.
Is a base used for this, or did they mention anything about that?
I don't believe so, but as a little tip, what I like to do is with the legs, the sort of front part of the shoulder should have a bit of a bulge to it. Like imagine it's like a little pocket pushing out that front line, and the back one should sort of just have this little bit of a twiddly line going backwards, as if the leg sort of has this shape. You know, it helps them feel a bit more fleshy.
All right, shall we move on to our next horse?
Okie dokie.
All right, let's do this rainbow one on the left middle.
This is quite a horse.
This is by Colm King 937 Pimp. Starting out strong, here's the first passion project.
So good luck replicating this or getting anyone to draw it for you. I know sparkle design, sparkle ponies, sparkle dogs are like it's a thing and it's kind of an art form. And if that was the intention, if your intention was I just want to make like a crazy random like rainbow design with all the toppings, then like yeah, good, you've done a good job and that's absolutely fine. Like if your job was to create an OC that you can use, then like my advice is always that you want to tone down the design into simplicity. Like look at what they've got in the show, design something that wouldn't look out of place in the background. But it depends on what you're going for.
If you're really stuck on keeping all of these colors, because colors can be fun, I'd recommend looking into more value work, because I think a lot of these colors could work well if they were like slightly different, like looking at hues, different hues, things to let your eyes rest as you're looking over this horse. But if everything's like
That's
kind of the
surprisingly well
same,
balanced from what I thought it was going to
yeah,
be.
it's just a lot of saturated colors. So I would maybe uh, turn down some of the saturation and play
Hmm.
around with that, see if that works a little bit. Just because a lot of saturation all at once can be kind of hard to look at, and it just kind of makes the horse feel a little bit less. Uh, it just looks better if there's some less saturation to let your eyes rest as you're looking through the image.
If you have like everything quite highly saturated, it's hard for your eyes to kind of know where to focus. Whereas if,
Yeah.
for example, let's do something up here. For example, I have this not very saturated kind of area up here, and then I have this quite saturated sort of block or shape here. Now when I'm looking at this, my eye is like, oh, there's an important bit, and
Hmm.
the rest of it is less saturated. It's less in your face. It's a little bit less important. So you can use it to kind of tell the viewer where they should be looking in the sort of important bits. Like for example,
Yeah.
the tips of the ears are really sort of fun. What I like to do is I like to have this sort of a little bit more saturation at the tip of the ears and also at kind of the tip of the muzzle. I think that looks pretty fun, but
Hmm.
that's just me.
I feel like the face is not really very well presented, I think is what I'm looking for, because the way that the sort of darker parts highlight it doesn't give us much. Like, it's not framed well, I think is what I'm trying to say. Um, Whereas I'm not sure exactly what I would do, how I would arrange the sort of black. Maybe just have it coming down from the neck and avoiding the face altogether. I'm not sure. Maybe having the entire face black instead could work. But something to make the character make it feel more cohesive, and just like really try to bring out the eyes, and just give us less sort of detritus, like distracting us around, especially with the face. The face is something that should be immediately like recognizable and easy to look at. That's
Yeah,
just
whenever you've got like these sorts of interesting patterns and all that sort of stuff, it's always a challenge to kind of spell out the form. So what could be fun for and useful for that is like to draw up a bunch of like, or just draw up like a base, just like in line art, basically. And then what you can do is copy this, copy, instead of copying it 2 times, copy it like 100 million times, and then come over with something like this, and then you can kind of just like lay out areas and sort of see what makes what keeps your sort of face area readable and all that kind of stuff. And because these are little quick little thumbnails, you can be
yeah.
really sketchy with them, and also
I was,
like yeah, see what works, see what doesn't, really quickly.
I was a bit confused with the sort of more front view looking one, because the way you've got sort of like the hairlines, but the color's invisible, so we can see what's underneath them. It's not very clear how you're showing how the hair is supposed to look. I don't think what I drew just now is how it's supposed to look. I'm usually kind of bad at doing these like side view, uh, the alternate way around doing the hair, but I would definitely try and push it away from the eye a little bit. If it is supposed to be hanging over the eye, then you do that. Just draw the hair, and then just give them, like, just put up here, do some eyes. Just do the eyes separately. If you need to show off the heterochromia, then you can do that in a separate thing. There's no need to sort of try and evaporate the hair, because that's also kind of an important thing, is to know how to draw the hair from the other side. So you're sort of losing an important aspect of the ref sheet to show us something else that can be represented pretty easily a different way. And also, I found typically in the past trying to have a character with heterochromia and then also with one eye is going to be mostly hidden by the main, is usually a bit like, unless there's a specific purpose for it, which sometimes there is in anime and stuff. Um, it's hard to show on the rush sheet. It's hard to replicate. It doesn't feel like there's as much point to it, because it's like putting this effort into making a feature for the character that's not going to be seen most of the time. So it's
But
about trying to balance things so that they can be shown off when they're supposed to be shown off, and
yeah,
and just put in the right place.
but at the end of the day, it's your character.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have fun with it. You can do whatever the heck you want to. You can have this like super detailed version for when you draw your character, and you can have like a simplified version for when you commission others for your character and all that sort of stuff. All of this is just advice for stuff that might be a little bit easier for I to sort of get around, and might help with
Yes.
the displaying the form and all that sort of stuff. But feel free to do whatever you want.
Yeah. If what you intended was to make a sparkle character that was like complex and interesting, then by all means you can ignore us. You can do whatever you want. If just on the off chance, because I wanted to elaborate more on what I said earlier. If what you're trying to do is make a character design and this is just how you understand how to make designs, you see like blank areas and think that needs to be filled with a little pattern, every tiny thing needs to have more detail, because I understand that is a mindset. Sometimes it can be a struggle for people to understand how to make a character look complete without just adding more and more. But the thing is, it ends up in a slippery spiral, because the more you add, the more you feel like you need to add more detail to make it make sense. Like if you had a piece of bread and put like a bit of butter on it, you'd want to continue buttering until you covered the whole piece of bread. Whereas sometimes just having that bread as it is, having less is more, can help things to feel more complete. But it depends what sort of character design you're trying to go for. So if you need more advice, you can always join our Discord.
All right, shall we move on to our next lovely picture?
Yes, yes.
Sweet.
I actually
Heck yeah.
saw a sparkle dog once. It was quite the endeavor.
All right, we're going to do the one directly under that one.
There are two.
This one?
Okay, that one.
Yeah, we're doing the one on the left. This is by Star Song Dust, and it's titled "The Devil."
I love the composition of this.
Yeah, actually, that's what they're asking about. I really enjoyed
One
working.
immediate piece of advice is the tone of the main blends in a lot with this character. In the future, I would basically just leave this blank as much as possible, and you can use an eraser, particularly if you've got like the sharp little pencil at the end of the pencil erasers to do this. But just make it look as if the character has an outline. That can go a long way with helping to separate the foreground from the background. It's just to just get your little pencil eraser, go around. Sorry, eyeball. You're gonna be erased, and just add this little outline, because then that's going to help you to bring out. Obviously, when you do it, I'm using the wrong color now because I only color picked one part of the page. There we go. But yeah, just go around and make it look like the characters sort of cut out and on top of everything, because it helps it feel a bit more dynamic.
So this is apparently part 25 of 78 of their Tarot Pony series. Their question is, they really enjoyed working with Sunset and would really like some feedback on the composition, the human elements in the background, of the human elements in the background. I feel like the demon form of Sunset is far superior to the human form Sunset, but I can't quite place my finger on where I need to make the edits to improve the quality. I also decided to put my own spin on the pony form, a little taller than the standard 3 heads. Are the limbs in the correct position? I tried to give her 3/4 view, slightly turned away from the viewer, but I feel like her rump is more turned than her forelegs. Is the perspective off, or am I just being too self-critical? Thanks for looking at my piece. I hope you enjoy it. 53 tarot cards to go.
Woo! Good luck. That's a lot of tarot cards.
Yeah.
So based on how your legs are, your front is slightly turned more towards us than the rump, but only slightly. We can just see, if we were to draw out like a line on that, you can see that line well, perpendicular doesn't match up with the hooves on the front. So you're just a little bit back, and you'll be at the same sort of position. And that would be standing perfectly stock still, which is weird because I don't know if you've ever stood and looked down at your feet, but generally they aren't perfectly aligned. There's some type of, offset or stagger to them, unless if you're trying to stand perfectly straight aligned.
For this demon sunset up here, I was just going to say, to get it to look kind of more standard, something that might help is kind of just changing this neck up so it's a little bit less like fully curved. You can have your characters like doing like all sorts of like weird, interesting, fun poses and all that sort of stuff, and you can definitely like have the sort of neck going up into this sort of thing. But if you're doing something like that, you'd probably want the head tilted as well to sort of make sense with that. Head tilted, and then the neck can easily sort of come out in that sort of direction.
I'm thinking about this tarot card. I was reading over your description of it and how it's outside forces controlling or restricting one, leaving them feeling powerless and victimized. I feel like, and you said you were having trouble with the regular human sunset, right? That was the one they mentioned that fell off.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah. So, two things come to mind for that. Thinking about the tarot card. The first one though, I feel like her face is a little too blocked off. I feel like since we can see the full face of Demon Sunset, her being blocked off and also being angry kind of leaves it to be lackluster and just kind of like, she's pushed off to the side. I don't really want to focus on her because I can't see her. But also thinking about the card itself, nobody here feels victimized. Like the one sunset in the middle seems pensive. Well, I'm saying we could really push that, really push her emotional demise because she did go through a lot. Like there was times she was just breaking down crying, and even when she first stole the crown from Celestia, she was like emotionally tormented. She was angry. She was, she's like, I know all this stuff. I should be in charge of stuff. Like I'm not, it's not so much just like angry and then more angry. It feels like we have like pensive sunset pony in the middle and then just like angry human and then angry demon. Maybe we could have like, sunset, maybe the pony version is like the final good form, or unless this is like the first version of her where she is that super angry cocky student who is like both sad and angry, so there's like maybe anger tears going on, and instead of just human sunset being just angry, it can be like maybe she came to the human world and she didn't fit in, so evil was all she could be. So maybe like they're still like dejected and rejected. Like we're missing that part of the devil card. And I think that could be something really fun to play with and get a more interesting overall look of her story in that card.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
I added
brainstorming a thumbnail up here of like what if instead of because originally I was going to be like instead of having the characters in bubbles, have them like fully taking up this space. The devil one's up here, the human sunset is over here, just fully taking up the space behind her and really blocking in. Because the tarot cards don't have much in the way of like negatives, but or sometimes they do. But you want to like use the space to represent the things. As Ali was talking, I was like, oh, what if you have her like cowering on the floor here? And you have the two sort of like hovering over. Maybe not it's like full like head poster headshots like I've drawn here, but you could draw them sort of like hovering over in some way. But really use the space, use it as a scene, draw the character in this sense of like being dominated and controlled and blocked and just having these negative emotions represented by these things looming over her. I think you could be quite creative with it.
I've got a little bit of like a chain going around here. That could be interesting. Having some like elements, but something that would really help in terms of making us feel like a little bit more complete and a little bit more like a sort of one element is up here. You've got like a lot of empty space, and that's totally fine. But what I could suggest adding is maybe like something like a simple little like edge design. Like it doesn't need to be much. Like even something along those lines, and following it along, following it down, having something like similar, like around here, and maybe like something like that is very simple, but it can kind of bring the whole thing together and make it look a little bit more like a designed card sort of thing.
And I'm even thinking back,
good.
like, we're talking about how there's like a lot of space in the card, we're talking about different compositions. And I almost wonder, like, so you're designing all these cards, right? What if you did some thumbnailing? Something that I know Q Pencil Case did during Inktober of last year was she had her full sketchbook, right? There's 2 pages usually. This one looks like you're drawing on the right side of the book. I know I do that with the spiral bound books, but what if on the reverse side of the page, right? Someone's drawing a great visualization. Thank you for whoever's doing that. Or yeah, the thumbnails. But on the left side of the page, you do light pencil, nothing really hard, not pressing hard or going into extra detail, doing these thumbnail sketches on the left side so you can explore ideas and explore how you want to fill the page. So when you end up drawing the actual piece, you don't end up with all these large blank spaces, or like the situation with Sunset Human face being a little too covered up. You kind of like, it's like pre-planning the picture. It's used a lot in traditional art because we sadly do not have the undo button. Be amazing, but sadly. And they're really great too. You get to explore more ideas, and maybe you'll find that the first idea you came up with maybe wasn't your best idea, and maybe it was like the third idea after you tried 5 ideas. You know, you'll never know unless you actually go and try and put them on paper. But it's a great exercise and a great way to just figure that stuff out.
Thumbnailing.
Yeah. The cool thing with thumbnails is that you can go through a lot of different ideas like quite quickly without like too much trouble, like because they are very rough. They're a space where you can just have a bunch of them and then experiment and sort of see. Like in these ones, I'm thinking like, you know, maybe introducing a bit of flow through here and having like the pony there, this face like looking that direction, maybe this face like looking a bit more that direction. Over here, like incorporating a little bit of Zai's design where it's like, you know, the pony sort of down there, and then maybe having like the human and the demon faces like looking at each other could be interesting and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, different things you can experiment with.
But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that thumbnailing lets you do. Lets you mess around and see what works and see what doesn't. And then if you draw something and it doesn't work, fine. Took you like a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. You know, some very short amount of time, and then you can move on. A good picture. Feel free to submit more stuff to us because I'd like to see more of the tarot cards you're working on.
So just for the face of Sunny, I've just moved her eye over just a little bit so we can get a bit of that side. Compare it to a few screenshots from the show, they tend to have still show the side of the face. It's not like MLP or standard ponies where the eye overtakes the entire side of the head. With their humans, they do have a bit more flesh on the side there. So that might get the correction between the two that was a bit off. All right, shall we move on to our last horse?
Let's go for it.
All right. This one was submitted on our critique channel. and it's by Aquila. Drew Aquila stomping. Oh, wait. Drew Aquila stomping a can, not too sure about the neck as well as the effect on the leg moving. Okay, so they just stomping a can, like a drinking can. Cool.
With the back leg. I guess you got the hooves to do that with. Oh, I see the can. Okay, I thought that was just the part of the hoof. Yeah, it's confusing to me because we're not really seeing any motion happening. I know I can see you tried to represent that with little dotted lines around the leg, but that's not really showing us that the character is crushing the can. There's definitely ways to do that in sort of cartoon drawing. I also was kind of expecting to see like the front, even though it's like claws. I feel like it's the more like dominant part if they're going to be like interacting with something. But yeah, the back leg can work too. I like the fact that it's stretched out a bit. I would definitely exaggerate that and bring the leg even further like out to really draw attention to what's happening. But I feel like there might be a pose that could potentially work better to illustrate the fact that they're like stomping on the scan. So I'm just gonna do some doodling over here.
Sorry, I was muted. What I would do is sort of add these little like lines away from like where the can is getting crushed to kind of like really show that that's where the action is going on. And what you could do is when you have someone like stomping something or crushing something, it's like a lot of power and a lot of like weight and all that sort of stuff. And one way they could get that weight is by having this hoof like mashing into the can. Cool. Have this back leg sort of off the ground, and then have this like front opposite leg kind of also off the ground. Like maybe they're jumping up and like stamping down on it or something along those lines, or maybe they're like taking weight off of those two so that they have more weight to stamp down with or something along those lines. It could be good to when it comes to like poses with very high levels of like movement and all that sort of stuff like this. What's really useful is finding a video of somebody doing this, or maybe maybe searching YouTube for horse stomps on can or something like that, and then pausing it, because then you sort of see what it looks like when the movement is actually going on.
I quite like this one. So something I did, I tried to sort of reinterpret using the back leg, but it wasn't very good. So I tried doing like a more actiony, like they just come shooting out the sky, slamming down on it. But this one, I was like, if I was looking at a comic or a cartoon of a character smashing a thing on the ground, I would imagine them doing this. I'd imagine that to illustrate the force of which they are like shooting their fist down on the thing, we are seeing the rest of their body lift up. And so you can, just in saying that, I'm sure all of you can imagine like cartoon scenes of characters doing this, where like they go to smash a thing and they jump out. Like, imagine if they had like a hammer or something, and their whole body just swings into the air as they slam the hammer down. Anything like that, where like the character's just like punching something, you can imagine them just like shooting up in the air, because it sort of counteracts the weight. It shows us like the motion. It adds like heaviness to the sort of blow that they're doing. I'm not sure if you could do that in reverse with the back leg. Like that's why it feels kind of a bit off to me, but yeah, definitely doing what Pixie said, or just sort of trying thumbnailing different poses. I think thumbnailing is the theme of today, and just seeing what sort of things work. But like looking up into like comic references, cartoon references can absolutely help you to find things. Looking at like if you want to go the whole manual route, you can do sort of follow Pixie's advice and look at like actual sort of videos of people doing things and try to think about how that could be exaggerated and shown in a cartoon format. I think especially with comics is a good example, because cartoons often are very exaggerated and have a lot of motion to them, but even so they are in motion, and a comic has to be able to show whilst being a still image. So essentially that's what you're doing here. You're not creating an animation. I'm presuming you're just showing the character doing something. And so following cartoons is great because they often do single frames will have that kind of exaggeration, but sometimes they'll rely on the fact that you're seeing things happen in sequence, whereas comics will have to rely on showing the thing happening in a still image. So you can probably find some good references that way. Another advice, I'm just drawing it big here, so I'm going to sort of cut into Ali's drawing a little bit. Showing the thing sort of smooshed, like literally smooshed under the. Actually, I'm not doing a very good job. Ooh. Like it's coming out from under the hoof. We can see it like actually like slamming down on the can. Could and sort of adding some more detail there could help to illustrate what's happening. Yeah, so we get that like crunchiness. And don't forget it's metal, so it's gonna be very jagged. Crunch. Get that nice crunch.
Yep, enjoy. There's 5 different interpretations of cans getting thrashed with hooves.
Yeah, there's lots of options of how to get the crunchy can. Okay, this can's fucked.
When you have like very interesting dynamic sort of posts like this, there's a lot of different ways you can show it. So, feel free to experiment and mess around and just see what happens, see what works.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else have any other comments? Any other questions? Any other art they'd like critiqued?
Oh my god, I love the scenic spatter in the bottom right. That's so cute. Small bean. It's adorable.
All right. Well, seeing as no one else responded, we're going to call it a day. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.